Hello, thanks for joining me today on my channel. This is Discovering My Money. Yeah, and I'm talking about budgeting. And I've got a whole list of things that you might want to think about if you're going to start budgeting. So it's basic budgeting. How do you get started? And let's get into it. But before we do that, click subscribe and like. That helps out my channel. I do have a goal to get monetized by the end of August, and I'd like to have 1,000 subscribers by then. And by the end of May, halfway through May right now, I need 100 just to show that I can get it going and start getting the YouTube algorithm involved. All right, so to start off here, if we're looking at what's your mindset for budgeting, you want to know why you're budgeting. So I have my list up here, so I'm going to be looking and referring to it. But if you don't know why you're budgeting, is it for savings? Is it to pay down debt? Is it to purchase a certain item? Is there things that you want to do, like planned vacations? These are all things you can apply budgets to. So you want to have some kind of goal or some idea how you're going to be adapting your budget to meet your needs. So you also want to kind of figure out what are your financial habits. So you're going to kind of determine, am I spending money on coffees? Am I going out and spending money just kind of randomly on, say, to go to concerts or things like that? And what am I doing to plan for, buying a new car or, larger items in that area? So if you kind of have some idea how you spend money on just, everyday things and also for larger purchases that come up, then you can also put into play some way to budget for those things. All right, so when we talk about income, you can talk about salary. Do you have side hustles? Do you get benefits, passive incomes, dividends, rental incomes? Do you get paid monthly, bi-weekly, weekly? This is very important, especially like the bi-weekly one, because it can really change kind of the whole process or mindset that you have for budgeting, depending on how you're getting paid. And then we go into expenses. So expenses have kind of a big thing like fixed income, which is your rent or mortgage, things that are going to come out regular, the same amount at the same time all the time. Variable expenses, things like groceries. So you might go into the grocery store and spend $100 one day, and then a week later you go in and spend $300. So it can really vary, but when you take an average, you're going to be roughly putting in a certain amount on a weekly basis. So a monthly budget would probably be close to the same. Irregular expenses, any gifts you're buying, car repairs, medical costs, subscriptions, yada yada, things that may be annual, or they may also be just totally irregular. They show up whenever. So you'll kind of want to have some idea, and some of them you'll know, like for instance, if you get winter tires for your car, that is an expense that's gonna, you buy those winter tires the first time, but then you get them swapped out for your all seasons in the summer. So there's an expense of doing that exchange of tires, plus also purchasing the tires every so often. Okay, then we can kind of go on to other debts like student loans, personal debts, personal loans, those buy now pay later plans. Yes, that's still debt, and so you got to look at that and how it's going to affect your money as you're going forward. So if you're not paying those off as you go, you're going to be hit with the penalty and so on and so forth. So they all do have an effect on your money and your flow. So be aware of all these different expenses that could be coming into play. Now, we talked about goals just briefly, but your short-term goals like emergency fund, vacation, paying off small debts. You have midterm goals of paying down your home, a new car, education funds that are going to be a little bit longer. And then of course your long-term, like your retirement investment portfolio and early financial. So those, you can have goals for all of those areas. You may have one that you're focusing more on, or one that you're more concerned about. Like maybe you have a pension and you've got money put aside in TFSAs or RSPs, whatever your investment fund for your retirement. You feel like that's taken care of, but now you want to figure out how you can start taking those, those vacations, those winter vacations that other people take that you haven't been taking. So that might be the case, or it could be completely flip-flopped, and maybe you're someone who takes vacations regularly, but you're worried about your long-term retirement plans. So that's all something you can now fit into your budget and start making a piece for it, right? So it may not just flop right into place, but you'll have to make a plan for it. Now you can also go into money management strategies. So different budgeting methods. There's a zero-based budget, a 50-30-20 rule, envelope system, pay yourself first method. I don't really like to kind of put something in to a plan like that because unless the plan really suits your needs, um, you're kind of always kind of, there's always going to be the exceptions, right? So to follow a certain plan because you think that's a good plan, or somebody said, "Oh, do this. This is what I do." It may or may not work for you. So try not to take one of these money management plans and kind of say that's the law. Find out what it is you're trying to do, and if you want to plan for structure, that's great, but maybe don't lock yourself into it. um, but if you're brand new, that might actually be helpful. Now you can put comments down below and let me know if there's a certain plan that you'd like me to talk a little bit about, and if you have a certain thing that you have in mind about budgeting, I'd love to make another video specifically for that. And then of course, how you'll track it. So I'm really old school, so I like paper and pen, but I do use Excel sheets. So you can use some kind of a computer spreadsheet for that, and that's pretty easy. There's budgeting apps, but again, if you're trying to save money, budgeting apps sometimes cost money, and I don't know, you just got to find something that you like. Pen and paper is easy. Now, when you're doing as a couple, it's a little bit different because now you're trying to share information. So sitting down pen and paper, it's a little bit more intimate because you're right there sharing the experience. If you do it in an app, you can both see it. You don't have to kind of schedule time to sit down and do that budget, where you can both be adding stuff in. So there might be the initial sit down and do it, but after that, you can be kind of playing with the budget as you go. So it gives you a little bit more, freedom. So when you actually have time together, it's not, let's talk about money. Okay, so now money assignments. So there should be a job for every dollar. Now that maybe sounds overwhelming when you say like that, every dollar has to have a job, but that's essentially what you want. And so after you're done making your list of incomes and your list of expenses, you hopefully have money left over. And if you don't, you have to go through all your expenses and find what you can cut out so you can get that point where you're ahead. And you want to cut as much as you can out of the stuff that are just wants, right? So it has to be needs that are covered, and then the wants come in after, and that's where you start assigning so much to each want. And hopefully still after that, you still have some money left over. And like I said, if you don't, then you have to start trimming the fat. Okay, so this money that's left over is now going to be assigned somewhere. So it's going to be assigned to a specific debt. It's going to be assigned to a specific savings, a retirement fund, whatever, but you're going to start assigning it. Now you might have 3 or 4 different things you want to assign it to. Like, we do want to go on a vacation this year, but we're going to have maybe trim it down. So we're going to spend a couple thousand here for this vacation. It's going to be, really simple. And the rest we're going to apply to our debt, bring our debt down so we have more cash flow. Next year, we'll be able to maybe do $3,000 and start assigning more money to our retirement savings, right? So they can start playing out both ways. If you don't have an emergency fund, of course, you want to build that up so you can start assigning money to an emergency fund. Easy. I think that's pretty good. Now, setting spending limits kind of comes into that. Like, so certain things like I'm going to give myself X amount of dollars per week to go out. And that's going to include coffees, lunches, and going out with friends on Friday night kind of thing. So you're going to assign yourself so much money for that type of thing. I'm going to assign myself so much for groceries. That might be on a monthly basis, but if I get paid twice a week, then of course I might spend more. Sorry, not paid twice a week, paid twice a month, or bi-weekly. You're going to spend so much a week, but at the end of the month, you only have so much money. So there might be things you have to kind of maybe cut back. So instead of buying the best steak on the shelf, you might be buying some hamburger for a few meals, right? So it's kind of, how can you budget your money and go that way? So there's ongoing maintenance. So what that means is you're going to come back and check your budget. So when you first get going, you're going to want to maybe check on a weekly basis to see, are you kind of staying within the rules that you set for yourself? And of course, this is not something you need to beat yourself up about because you're just starting out, right? So you want to think about it like you're just checking in on it, right? So when you're cooking something in the oven, you pull it out and you don't expect it to be perfect the first time. You just want to see, is it doing okay? Do a little basting, and then you put it back in the oven, you keep it going. That's kind of what you're doing with your budget, is you're just checking on it and make sure it's not burning, do a little basting, put it back and let it do its job, right? So if you're not following the rules you set, why are you not following? It's the same thing you're not following all the time. Did you not allot yourself enough money for that, right? So there might be a certain thing that's coming up that you're spending more money on than you planned on, and so is that a bad plan, or are you just breaking the rule, or is your self-control an issue? Do you need to put something else in place to ensure you're not overspending? And so that's the whole reason of the budget, is to kind of give you that check and balance, so you have some idea of where you can cut back or where you're having trouble. Okay, so now I just kind of already touched on it, but adjusting. So when you make adjustments to your budget, like for instance, if you're paying down debt, maybe you have 4 or 5 credit cards and you're like, this is overwhelming. So you say, I'm going to pay off this credit card first. Number one is going to pay down, and all the money that you're putting towards that one, once it's paid off, you're now going to put all of it towards the second one, and then you're going to pay down the second one until it's done, and then the third one, and then the fourth one, and so on. So you're going to readjust how much you're putting towards each credit card as you go through those payments. So that's just one example, but you also may have some adjustments, because you might say, okay, well, I'm going to save up for this vacation, and once I get the savings for that vacation, then I'm going to allocate that money towards extra investment, right? So I want to put that towards my retirements. So that's good. You got an idea that I'm going to put this much aside for my vacation, and once I've reached the amount that I think I'm going to need, I'm going to start putting more money towards my retirement savings and go from there. Now you can do it in all kinds of different ways, but it's just a good way to kind of give yourself, those checks and balances and make adjustments as you're going through. All right, so you're going to track your progress like we've already talked about. So your savings growth, you're going to check on that to see how you're doing. That's going to make you feel good to see that positive increase when your debt starts coming down and you start reducing the amount that you owe and the amount of different debts that you have. That's going to make you feel good. And of course, once you get rid of those credit card debts, the high interest is crushing, so that's going to make you feel good. And you're going to see how much more cash flow you have, and you're applying that to other things. That's going to make you feel good. So these are very positive things to kind of track your progress, although it might seem like it's a monotonous thing, but it's just kind of that booster to say what you're doing is actually paying off and it's worthwhile, and you're going to see how it's benefiting you. All right, so then the whole safety security thing comes into play. While you're doing all this, you don't want to put yourself at risk, so you still want to build up that emergency fund. So I've talked about emergency funds in previous videos. And then how much to start with? Well, if you think about job loss, if you apply for a job, by the time you get called back, some jobs might call you back within a week, but most of them are not going to call you back probably for 2 weeks, maybe even longer. You get that first interview set up, which is usually the next week after that. So you're already looking at 3 weeks just to get into the first interview. And of course, if you're at a higher paying job and you're looking to get another higher paying job, there probably is a interview process, which means they're going to interview 2, 3, maybe even 4 times before they make a decision. And that may be 2 interviews per week, or it might be 1 per week. So you could be adding another month onto that. And then in the last meeting, when they say, yes, we're hiring you, they'll say, when can you start? Okay, well, we're going to set the date for 2 weeks from now or a month from now. So you probably are looking anywhere from 2 to 3 months if you are able to get a job fairly quickly. So 3 months, if we say that's your emergency fund, if you lose a job, that's great. Now you may say, okay, well, I got unemployment insurance, I've got all this other stuff that is available to me. Why do I need an emergency fund? Well, unemployment insurance won't cover that much. So depending on what your lifestyle is, if you have a lot of expenses, you're going to definitely want to have this emergency fund. You may also find that your lifestyle may change, because the type of jobs that you can get after you're laid off might not be as lucrative as the one before. So it might take you a while to make some adjustments in your spending, and also, adjust to this new lifestyle you're going to have based on your new job. So having enough in your emergency fund probably is a minimum of 3 months. And I would suggest even longer if you feel like your lifestyle is going to need that kind of support. So just imagine what would happen if you lost your job and had no money to pay for anything right now. How long is it going to take you to reach that level? All right, so Of course, if you are doing all kinds of budgeting, you want to set yourself up for a positive outcome. Um, I think the biggest thing with all these things on this list is just to get started. So new to budgeting, just get it started, get your income and your expenses going, figure out what your goal is, put everything down. And as you get going, you're going to find you're going to make adjustments. If you decide to go with a specific budgeting plan, that's fine, but realize you can adjust from that if it doesn't seem like it's fitting what your needs are. And don't stick yourself to just one rule. You can set your budget up to suit what your needs are. All right, so go ahead, click subscribe and like. Thanks for joining in. We'll see you next video.